Hello Exiles and welcome. Just thought I'd say apologise for the delay in the videos, but it has been a crazy league. So as you can see from the showcase that you've just seen, then the build that we're going to be talking about today is Ice Nova of Frostbolts. Now from the build itself, it is a very nice, well-rounded build, and for anyone who knows me in the Discord community, it has been a hard slog over the last couple of weeks. Just to put it into perspective on how many builds I have done, this is now the 9th build that I have now done, and we're going to quick fire run through them now. So first of all, we did Ball Lightning Hyro for the first day or so. I found that was too squishy. We then rolled over to Spectres, which we did for a couple of days, and again it felt a bit too squishy, but that was because GGG had actually messed up on the decimal points on the leech from the Ascendancy. But by the time I had sold everything and they then patched it, I couldn't be bothered going back. I then tried doing Fire BV Chieftain, which was decent, but also it was getting one shot, which was a little bit annoying. So the main thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to find a build that could comfortably do tier 17s. So I was like, okay. So I then went away and I then thought of doing a Hex Blast Saboteur. Now he was squishier than a wet paper towel, and he was literally just getting breathed on and dying. The damage was there, but the defenses were not. So then I tried Cock DD, so the meta that everyone's playing, and I did Rutu's version or Ventura's version, Inquisitor, and again was good damage, but also was getting randomly one shot every now and then, which I wasn't happy about. So then I tried the Trickster Splitting Steel build, which again was very good tankiness, but damage was abysmal. The damage was around about 6 million. And trying to take out the tier 17 bosses was taking forever. And then if you had 200 or 300% extra monster life with the back to basics mod, it was horrible. So then I switched out and I thought, let's try Bone Shatter of Complex Trauma Juggernaut and see how that works out. And it was decent, but the damage was there, but the survivability wasn't. It was, to me, it felt very squish. So then one of my friends recommended a fun build, a bit of a meme build, which was Rage Vortex of the Berserker, which was, again, was quite a memey build, was quite fun, but I only stuck with it probably for about 3 or 4 hours, and then that was it, because the damage was not there. It was tanky as hell, but the damage was like non-existent. We then fell upon Ice Nova of Frostbolts. And I think that this is probably the build of the league, and I'm not probably going to be switching out and doing any more build guides just because of the volume of builds that I've done already. I'm on the 9th build. It wears you out, trust me. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly run through the gear and obviously quickly go through what you want to be looking for. So this does not need a Mage Blood. Let me just put D&D on. This does not need a Mage Blood, so if you do not want to run with a Mage Blood, you do not need to, okay? It's mainly just for quality of life. If you just want to get a rare belt, you can do, okay? Essentials for the build are you do need some good wands. Now, the main thing that we are running here is Archmage, so you want to be stacking mana, spell damage, and crit. That's basically what you want to be running as much as possible. Also, with this build, you want to be stacking cast speed. Cast speed is huge. Now, with the speed in which you cast Frost Nova, it ultimately defines your damage. So that is why we are going with Profane Wands, because they inherently have a implicit of 14% increased cast speed, and we are running with 2 of them. Then you want to try and get 32% increased cast speed on it as well. That will then basically giga buff your cast speed. You'll then be getting 30, so there's 64, and the 14, so there's another 28, so you're nearly talking 100% cast speed just from the wand. And then we'll talk about other places you can get it. Other things you want to focus on these wands is try and get mana as high roll as possible, spell damage high roll as possible, and then try and go for either quick strike chance with spells, crit multi, or as I've got down there, chaos damage as extra chaos. Now if we check my other wand, it's pretty much the same. It doesn't have the chaos as extra damage, but again it's got spell damage, crit strike, mana, spell damage, cast speed, mana, and again crit multi. They're basically your bread and butter mods that you want to be looking for. Anything else, just stay away from it. They're your best in slots. And then for the implicits, not the implicits, the enchant, you want to try and get the elemental damage per quality, because that will then give you more damage. Now inherently this build does more lightning damage than anything based off Archmage. Okay, as it says there, skills gain added lightning damage equal to 20% of unreserved maximum mana. So we are stacking our mana. So as we can see down here, I currently have 8,700 mana, and if we hover over our skill, as you can see there, we got cold damage of a max hit of 9,400, and we have a lightning damage hit there of, it was 39,000 there, and then chaos of 1900. So our lightning damage is our biggest chunk of our damage. For that reason, we are running Kitava's Thirst, and you want it to have lightning damage leached as life. Now we have got multiple sources of leech, but that 0.5% is pretty big. Now I managed to snipe this one with a +1 power charge as well. If you can get this, by all means try it, but there was only one on the market and I managed to snipe it, so good luck. Additionally with this, you want to try and get as much energy shield or armor or maximum mana as you can with the implicits. Next thing we're running with is then we will go to Athema. So the Athema ring, you want to try and get max rolled cast speed, and then if you can, roll it with attributes to try and get the caster modifiers to 20%, just so you then have 18%. I managed to pick this one up with a determination double implicit. The malevolence is dead, don't really care, but it was the only one on the market that had 20% determination and 18% cast speed, and a nice high roll on the intelligence, because intelligence gives you more mana. Next thing we're running is just a bog standard rare ring with just a shit ton of resists. As you can see there, we've got 56 cold, 55 lightning, 37 chaos, another 27 chaos on the implicit. We've then got life, we've then got mana, and we've got damage taken recouped as mana. So we never run out of mana. Now we're going to run on to we'll come back to Kitava's Thirst in a second. The main chest that we are using is a lore weave. Now the reason why we're using a lore weave is because there is two items in this build that kind of work very well in harmony with each other. Now to try and get a decent one with decent mods can be a little bit expensive. As you can see here, I got a 59% increased crit strike chance and a 46% elemental damage and a 78 resists. They're the three mods that you want to be looking for and try and get them as high rolled as possible. The resistance one is essential that you get 78. Okay, every other roll is entirely up to you. The mana, if you can get a high mana roll, that will help you out. High life roll, that will help you out. And if you can get a decent energy shield, it will help you out. It will all help towards the build. The rarity and the attributes and the physical damage doesn't really, the damage to attacks doesn't really apply. The attributes, not really attribute starved, and rarity is rarity, doesn't really matter. Now because our resistance is a 78%, because we are stacking chaos res, we have currently on the build, I think it's 78% chaos res. As you can see there, 78. So we're at 78, 78, 78, 78. Because of that, we are running the Eternal Damnation Amulet. Now because these two run very well together, the best mod you want to look at this, or the best line is the bottom one. So we get additional elemental damage reduction equal to half of your chaos res. So 78 divided by 2, and that is how much we get in terms of benefit towards our resistances. So we get 39% damage, elemental damage reduction just from that amulet, and then our resistances are 78, so that boosts them up even higher. Now if you can get it to 90 and not use the lore weave but still have decent crit strike chance and decent elemental damage, then as you can imagine that will give you more elemental damage reduction. Okay, now the setup is you are running with Ice Nova of Frostbolts, and you are then triggering Ice Novas which trigger on yourself. Now Ice Nova itself costs 134 mana. Now if you read the helmet, it says there that once you spend 100 mana, you have a 50% chance to trigger all gems that are socketed within your helmet. So what we're running in the helmet is Frostbolt at level 2. You can run it at level 1, but I just kind of leveled it up once by accident and I've never de-leveled it. Greater Volley, level 1, doesn't really benefit anything other than that. If you want to get that up to the maximum level just to kind of increase the damage, you can do. Entirely up to you, but the only thing that this build struggles with is Dex. We have only got 81. Bearing in mind at level 1 this is 63. You're probably only going to be able to level that to about level 4, 5, maybe 6 before you start running into Dex issues. The other thing we're running in is Enfeeble, so then obviously whilst you're then casting your skill, it then means that all monsters nearby take less, they deal less damage, but they also, that's for magic enemies and for rare and unique, they have less accuracy, so obviously it just kind of helps you with a bit more survivability. And because we are hitting with 2 elements, not 1, we are running with elemental weakness. Now you can run conductivity, which obviously does reduce their lightning resistance down by like 37%, but then that doesn't reduce their cold. I feel that elemental weakness is a nice middle ground. It reduces their cold and their lightning down by 30, and you're hitting them with both lightning and cold. Final things that we're running is, if you want to be ailment immune, you want to try and get at least 100% avoid being shocked on the boots. So I've got there 60% and 40% on the implicit. The other things that you're rolling for on this is literally just chaos res, because you want to try and get as much chaos res as possible. Life, mana, I needed fire resist, and then the bottom mod is movement speed. Now technically you don't need movement speed because this build runs with a Frostblink of Wintry Blast, and that is how you usually get around the map, is just by using that. If you want a movement speed, then you can do, but none of the flasks that I am running, as you can see, are a Quicksilver. You don't need it, and none of them give me movement speed because I don't need it. So I've got things in other places. So that is the situation with the boots. The top implicit for bleeding, you can roll to be whatever the hell you want, but I hate bleed, so I put it on there. Last one is the gloves. We are obviously taking increased damage against chilled enemies because we are chilling them with our cold hits. I needed cold resistance, so I went with that. Got life, it's got mana. I needed chaos res again. I needed fire res again. And again, the bottom one, increased damage during any flask effect. Our flasks are pretty much always on, so increased damage always. In terms of gem setup, obviously I'm going to quickly run through them, but they will all be in the POB that I'm going to provide you with. So we're running Ice Nova of Frostbolts. We're running Archmage for the extra damage. Lightning Pen because that is our main damage. Spell Echo just so that it does do it. In the POB I will have an Awakened Spell Echo. That is if you want to invest another 100 divine in that gem. It only gives you 600,000 damage, so it's entirely up to you whether you want to use that. If you don't want to go for the extra 600,000 damage, then just run regular 2120 Spell Echo. We're running Inspiration just so that it costs less mana and increased critical damage for the increased multi. In the ones we are using Sigil of Power, Archmage again, and Frostblink of Wintry Blast. And in the other one we're running Punishment, Arcanist Brand, and Assassin's Mark. So basically once you go into the boss room, you would usually pop Sigil, and you would then put Arcanist Brand down on top of the boss's head, and then cast away on top of the boss. Now as you can see here, I have bought the MTX, obviously for Ice Nova, so it does look a little bit different to the video. This nice blue, and it's entirely up to you. The white kind of looks like you're getting flashbanged. The blue is a little bit easier on the eyes, so it's entirely up to you what you want to do. But as you can see here, look at the mana regen, and when I'm casting, look at the mana. I have no issues with mana. It's just constantly just regenerating, so there's no issues. Next thing, obviously, we're running in the boots is we're running an Arrogant support with level 1 clarity. Now the reason for that is we are eventually going to be running a Watcher's Eye that has clarity. Once you're running clarity, 8% of damage is taken from your mana, but we just don't have it yet. So if you want to run that, you can do. Just do this setup. We're running an Eternal Blessing with Determination just to get the most out of our armor. And then we are running then an Arcane Cloak on Automation with Arcane Surge and increased duration, just so that we get the most out of Arcane Cloak, and that is just turned on in the background. Now, as you can see here, I'm only running 3 auras. I'm only running Determination, Clarity, and Automation, which is obviously the Arcane Cloak, and that's it. Okay, but this build will tank a lot of stuff. It's got around about 179,000 effective HP pool, I believe, last time I checked. In terms of the tree, it's very basic. The only thing that we're taking up here, we're taking a Healthy Mind just to get maximum mana, and increases to life are instead mana related. We go down here, we're picking up a Storm Shroud for the Ailment Immune. Going down here, we're picking up an Unnatural Instinct just to pick up all of this juicy stuff in this circle. Down here, we're then picking a Watcher's Eye. This has got 2 Determination mods, which is ideally you want end game, you want 2 Determination and the Clarity mod that says that you're going to take damage off your mana. That may be expensive. This one costs a little bit, 8% Fizz damage reduction and 870 armor. The Hatred mod is a deadly mod. And then finally over here we are then running a Piranda's Pact, which is then giving you a good chunk of evasion. Now, if you are going to try and get Corrupted Blood immunity, I would try and get it on this duel because it will be super cheap. Now, in terms of the stats on my character sheet here, we are running at 90% Fizz reduction, 15,000 armor. We're at 47% evade. We've only got 19% spell suppression, but it's still not an issue. We're at all 78 resists. We've got a bit of block attack damage, and we are entirely ailment immune. So this, and we currently have 3,209% life, sorry, 3,209 life, 3,700 shield, so that's what, nearly 7,000 effective life and shield in total there. But then we are then running Mind Over Matter, which is 40%, and we are then running Sanctuary, is it Sanctuary of Thought? I always forget which one it is. No, Divine Guidance, which is another 10%, so that's 50% of any damage taken is taken from our 8,000 mana pool first, then it hits our life. So yeah, very tanky build. In terms of obviously the build itself, it's very fun. It can do tier 17s without a shadow of a doubt. There are some mods that I will say that you need to avoid. If you are doing back to basics, do not run less area of effect, because players have less area of effect because you will have no area of effect, which means that your Ice Nova vanishes. You have no damage, so don't do that one. Marked for Death can be that can hurt, because we do leech quite a bit. So if you hit Marked for Death on it, try and roll over it, because trust me, it's very painful. Trying to think what other mods there are that obviously can hurt. The crit strike chance and crit multi ones are okay. They can sometimes hurt. Granted, in tier 17s, it can run them. There are some mods where you may sometimes just get maybe 2-shot. Not 1-shot, 2-shot. So it's a case of that you just got to be ready. The only thing that is hit that has 1-shot me so far in this build is the boss, when he had increased 2,000 increased crit strike chance and like 300% crit multi, but then he had like 120% increased cast speed and attack speed and movement speed. So he was casting that big red expanding ball like every 2 seconds. It was horrible. So yeah, when that hits you, it hurts. So, but compared to the other 8 builds that I've done, this is probably the strongest. It chunks damage from anybody. It kills enemies like a shadow of the breeze. The balls will keep traveling and keep blasting Ice Nova as it travels, and it will then do damage off screen. And obviously it does a hell of a lot of damage in terms of like overall. And obviously it's tanky. You won't die as many times as, you know, if you was to play like a bow build, you might die every 5 seconds. So in terms of the flasks, I will run through them very quickly. So Bottle Faith is just for the added damage. We're running Onslaught obviously for the cast speed, and Effective Curses, reduced Effective Curses, which is obviously then increased by 90%. Chance to avoid being stunned, which is obviously increased by 90%. Elemental Resistances, again, increased by 90%. And Crit Strike Chance, again, increased by 90%. All of that helps the build massively. Other than that, guys, I believe that is it. We will have a quick look at the Ascendancy just so you can see it. So we do obviously go for Arcane Blessing, we pick up the power charges, we then go for Divine Guidance, and we then pick up Sanctuary of Thought just for the AoE and the reservation, less mana cost of skills, and the maximum mana as extra energy shield, which is always defensively. The last jewel I forgot to mention is down here, which is a Glorious Vanity. Now the mods that I got, the reason why we're getting it is you're getting it for Doriani. If you read the Corrupted Soul here, it basically gives you a chunk of extra energy shield, but it also says here that 50% of non-chaos damage taken will bypass your energy shield, but that is massively reduced. Okay, in terms of the points, cast speed, remember what I said, set essential. Mana regen, just because I just needed a bit of mana regen, and then increased mana. Now if you can get increased mana, then that's probably the best in slot. Maybe one cast speed. So 2 maximum mana, 1 cast speed would be best in slot. And because of where it is, there's no real other points that you can take. I am currently at current level 99. When I do get my last point, I am probably going to chuck it up here for the 8% increased maximum mana, just because mana increases my damage. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching. If you have any questions with the build or any problems, or whether you've done this build already this league, then by all means throw us a like, throw us a subscribe, and obviously throw us a comment. Tell me what you think of the build, how have you enjoyed it. I'd also like, if you don't mind, if you are still watching the video at this point, throw us a follow on Twitch. The link will be in the description. I am going to be streaming Twitch on Twitch a little bit more, probably from next season, just because my followers are a little bit low. And obviously when I do stream, I'm only getting like 10 to 20 followers watching me. So I want to try and bump that up a little bit. So if you wouldn't mind, if you enjoy watching Twitch and PoE streamers, throw us a follow so you'll get a notification on when I go live. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching. The Path of Building is in the description, and stay sane.